Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Kelsey Bishop, who is calling in from Portugal. It's always great connecting with people on this podcast, Kelsey, because I get to talk to people from all over the world, and I love it. Kelsey, you are the founder and CEO of Candor, joincandor.com. And I just want to kind of read your bio because I think it kind of describes exactly what we're going to dive into today. You believe that true job satisfaction in tech comes when people can be themselves in an inclusive and accepting team. In May of 2021, you founded Candor and have raised $5 million in funding since. It's a platform that provides users a chance to create job profiles with real honest feedback that may result in better self-awareness, more growth, and greater fulfillment at work. One of my favorite quotes by Tony Robbins is success without fulfillment equals failure. And so I want to kind of start and backwards. When you talk about fulfillment at work, and here you are starting this company, what did you, and maybe it's obvious in the description that I just read, but what did you see was missing, and how did you decide to then build a business around it?
Yeah, I mean, so my background is I started my career in tech. I have worked at a lot of different startups in a lot of different generalist types of roles, marketing, sales, kind of run the gamut. And I found that my best startup experiences were ones where I joined a team where the culture fit was there for me. And it didn't say anything particular about the company itself, like the company could have been doing well or not. But it was really like, do I enjoy how this team works? Do I like their values? Does this just jive for me in a good way? And on the flip side, I joined teams where I didn't have culture fit. So the values weren't quite aligned. The ways of working didn't really work for me. And those were kind of low points in my career. And so it kind of struck me as a bit of a gamble for candidates who join companies. Like, how do you know if you're going to have culture fit? Well, you don't, right? And the reason why, and the whole hypothesis behind Candor is because you don't have a place to be authentic about who you really are at work. There's no way to share, here's my work style, here are my values. And, there's no way on a LinkedIn profile to say, anything besides your old job history, which actually doesn't really help with the culture fit question. So yeah, that was the impetus behind Candor, was like, can we actually help people be more authentically themselves and thus get connected with teams that actually align with who they are?
Right. So is this kind of like in a way, kind of your resume that you're putting out there? Is this can this be done internally, or is this an external thing that people kind of say like, hey, here's who I am, so recruiters are going to it?
So right now we're a public profile that teams use to get to know each other. So a lot of teams will use us within the hiring process. Exactly.
Internally. Right. Okay. And so talk about a little bit about, in your thing, you're talking about real, honest feedback. And so, I think sometimes people need to actually be trained on how to give feedback to people. I think that's something that companies, are not necessarily investing in training people how to give feedback, so it can be heard and heard the right way. And so how does that work here? How does that get monitored?
Yeah, so I think feedback is kind of a loaded word, right? Because a lot of times people are like, well, I don't enjoy working with this person. They need feedback. Well, actually, if you break down what feedback means, a lot of it is like, can we close the self-awareness gap, right? Like a lot of people don't know how they're perceived at work. And it doesn't have to always do with their areas of growth. That might be part of it. But another part of it is like, well, how do my teammates perceive my strengths? How do my teammates perceive how I need recognition? And actually getting that 360 look on your entire work style. So when we say feedback, and it's really more about like creating that self-awareness for people. Like, can we give them that 360 look on how they're perceived by their teammates?
Yeah. It's the name is Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio, philosophy. He wrote a book called Principles, and his company Bridgewater, one of the top, I think, 100 hedge funds in the world. He's got a great TED talk that talks about this as well. I mean, that's kind of how he runs his company, and the book Principles kind of goes into detail on the transparency and openness. But one of the things, and I highly recommend that everybody watch I'm actually gonna How to Build a Company Where the Best Ideas Win. That's the name of the TED Talk. And in it, he talks about this very thing where people are actually, giving real-time feedback. So you can actually get feedback on your feedback, meaning if you rate something a 4 out of 10 and everybody else is a 9 out of 10, will give you feedback and you can dive into their perspective. And it's all about growing your self-awareness. And so I think it takes a certain person and for sure a shift in the business world to get to this. So how do we begin to shift people to this?
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to the existing company culture where you're working. We see a lot of companies who are interested in candor already have this value of being authentic and being transparent. And kind of not surprisingly, that's a really attractive culture to join. And so my hypothesis is that if we can elevate these companies and managers who do have these values, you actually attract really incredible talent who's like, okay, of course I want to go work for that person, that team, right? I don't want to work for this hierarchical company that, is kind of more mainstream. I want to work for a company that has the same values as me, that is more transparent, that values authenticity. So I think it comes down to like a little bit of, if you can attract the high performers to these really attractive team cultures, then you start kind of like having down market effects where the companies that maybe aren't as open initially to this type of working see all the high performers going to companies that work like this and they start adapting.
Yeah. So so thank you for that. Let's talk about, you have this hypothesis that you're talking about, and then you turn that into a business idea, and then you raise 5 million in funding. Talk a little bit about how you sold the idea to get the funding.
Yeah. So fundraising was a really interesting process. And I actually did 2 fundraising rounds. So the first round was a pre-seed round of $1.5 million, and the second was a seed round 3 months later at $3.5 million. So yeah, I mean, the process was very different for both of those because the first round I did, it was just me and a no code app that I had built to kind of test this out with a couple hundred users. And I had no team. So pitching this was very much like people were taking a bet on me as a founder and on the market, because I think a lot of the investor attraction to this is LinkedIn is, really outdated. They haven't innovated. They are way behind on the times. And there's a general sentiment of people don't love LinkedIn. And so what are our alternatives and how can they kind of fit in this like new age of work? And so a lot of the pitch was around like, well, the future of work is more flexible. People want more authentic workplaces. People want values that they align with. And also at the same time, we have this market incumbent that isn't doing well. And so, those 2 things combined, I think can be very compelling. The second round I did felt different than that. We actually got preempted for that round. So I wasn't fundraising. It was an investor who came to us and was like, hey, let us lead your seed round, which was great. But at that point I had a team. And so it was much more around, look at these talented people around the table and, we are the right team to bet on in this space.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think I appreciate you sharing that, because I think a lot of people will take an idea and then begin to sell it. And, you're pointing out and kind of highlighting some of the pain points. This is what people weren't getting from this. So we kind of built this, and this is what investors, believed in, and et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for kind of giving a high level overview on that. Talk about just the courage of starting a business that kind of deals with a sliver that isn't really, it's kind of a new market. I remember I double majored in journalism and economics, and I wanted to be the next Larry King in college, right? I loved the whole idea of asking questions and, learning from people. And this show is modeled off of like him. I loved Larry King.
Oh, nice.
But now, so you have this concept, you have this idea, and in journalism, one of the things was you got to be fast, right, or first, right? So to for a story, and so you're kind of, in a way, maybe not first, but kind of first in this new market. And so how did you have the courage to actually help, be an innovator when it came to defining what this market is? And then how did you have the courage to then build a business on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was the fact that I couldn't get this particular problem out of my head. And it was personally impacting me a ton because when I left my last role, I started looking for a new job. And in my head, I'm like, how do I know that I'm not going to land in another company that doesn't have culture fit, right? That I don't have culture fit in. And the answer to the question was like, well, there's absolutely no way to tell. And it struck me as like this horrible issue that I didn't feel comfortable joining another team. And so yeah, part of it was like I couldn't get another job because I didn't feel confident. And the second was that it just struck me as like this crazy thing where I had such a low point in my life because of this problem, and I knew other people were having that same problem. And so it was kind of like, if I don't do this, not only am I susceptible to falling right into that place, but like I will watch people that I know, people that I don't know, have to go through that same thing, and that felt really wrong to me. And so yeah, I used to joke that I would do it as like a form of charity, even if it never turned into a business, because I feel so strongly that people shouldn't have to work at a company that they don't feel like they belong at. And yeah, it felt like a blessing when I was able to raise money and bring on a team, because it felt real all of a sudden, like we could actually take a swing and try to solve the problem.
Yeah, I love it. Well, kudos to you. I think it's great. I mean, you're a pioneer in many ways, paving the way for a happier workplace and for more fulfillment. Let's do a quick speed round. You ready, Kelsey?
Yep. Let's do it.
A book that's had the biggest impact on you.
The Alchemist.
Oh, it's one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite books.
So
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Pave your own path. Don't listen to what other people tell you to do.
All right, good. And finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to begin walking the path of their own fulfillment is?
Self-reflection. Figure out what you want. Figure out what you love.
Good. I love it. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you, Kelsey.
Yeah. So ideal clients are managers and generally people who want to be culture leaders at their companies. To sign up at joincandor.com. And you can actually sign up for free. Our product is totally free today. So try it out with your teams and create better culture at your companies.
It's great. It's great. Think community. I'm a business coach. I work with successful people all over the world and who are stuck and get them unstuck, and from solopreneurs to fortune companies and everything in between. And what I love about this podcast is I get to talk to people like Kelsey, who's in Portugal, and other people all over the world who can help in my mission to get people unstuck. And, you shared a lot of great things today, Kelsey, and I appreciate everything that you're doing and pioneering. And I'll extract just a couple things, which is, one, have the courage to do something that, you can't get out of your head, that is maybe some type of, purpose driven, like you said, you would do it for free, purpose driven, where you can then monetize and also scale it and build a business and, bring it to life, and have the courage to kind of dive in, whether it's full-time, part-time, part-time, and always kind of do your best to find your path of fulfillment, whether it's in business and or life. So Kelsey, thanks so much for, being part of the Think Business and community. One more time, if you want to get a hold of Kelsey, your website is?
joincandor.com.
Awesome. And if you want to connect with me, you can reach out to jondwoskin.com. Kelsey, thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.